The glass trembled in her hand before her heart did. It was subtle, just a faint shiver rippling through the champagne. But she noticed it immediately, the way you notice the smallest change when you're already on edge. The ballroom glowed in warm golds and soft ambers, chandeliers scattering light across polished marble floors. Music drifted through the air, elegant and distant, wrapped in the low hum of conversation. She stood near one of the towering columns, feeling like an intrusion in a world that had not been built for her. Her dress was black, simple, chosen carefully to disappear rather than shine. Borrowed heels pinched her toes, but she held herself upright, shoulders squared, chin lifted. Years of being underestimated had taught her how to look composed even when she wasn't. This was a mistake, she thought. Coming here was a mistake. And yet, she had come. The invitation had arrived 3 days ago. Thick cream paper embossed with an unfamiliar crest. An exclusive charity gala. Attendance requested. No required. The message that followed had been brief and unsettlingly polite. A benefactor wished to meet her. Someone who had taken a particular interest in her work at the legal clinic. She hadn't known how to refuse. She hadn't known how to say no when rent loomed and her mother's prescriptions were stacked neatly on the kitchen counter like quiet accusations. So she had stepped into this world of tailored suits and practiced smiles, where power moved invisibly, where every glance carried weight. "You look like you're deciding whether to escape through the window," a voice said beside her. She startled, champagne slushing dangerously close to the rim. Turning, she found herself facing a man who smiled as if the room had softened for him. He was tall, impeccably dressed, his dark hair falling just slightly out of place in a way that felt intentional. His eyes were warm, curious, entirely at ease. "Is it that obvious?" she asked, surprised by the laugh that escaped her. "Only to someone who's had the same thought," he replied, lifting his glass. "First time." She nodded. "I don't usually get invited to places like this." "Neither do I," he said lightly. "At least, not the right way." She studied him, uncertain whether he was joking. Something about him felt human, approachable. The tension in her shoulders eased despite herself. "I'm June," he added. "And you are?" She told him her name. He repeated it slowly, tasting the syllables, as if it mattered. They talked. About music drifting from a quartet near the stage. About how strange it was that so many people could gather in one place and still feel alone. He listened when she spoke, really listened, leaning in slightly, eyes never wandering. When her fingers brushed his sleeve by accident, he didn't pull away. It felt safe. Too safe. She didn't hear the footsteps behind her, didn't sense the shift in the room until the air itself seemed to tighten. Then a voice, low, calm, devastatingly close, slid into the space beside her. "Wrong brother." Her breath left her in a sharp, silent gasp. She turned too quickly, heart stalling as the world tilted. For a split second, the man before her looked identical to June. Same face, same dark eyes, same elegant lines. But the resemblance ended there. This man didn't smile. He stood with a stillness that commanded space, his presence bending the room around him. The conversations nearby softened, the laughter dimming as if instinctively aware of him. His gaze was steady, piercing, and utterly unreadable. This was the man people watched without meaning to. The Korean boss. She had heard whispers, enough to know his name carried weight, enough to know his attention was not something one invited lightly. "I think you've made a mistake," he said quietly. His voice was smooth, controlled, but there was an edge beneath it that made her pulse race. He didn't raise his tone. He didn't need to. Her mouth felt dry. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize." "You wouldn't," he interrupted, not unkindly. "Most people don't." June frowned, stepping closer. "Hyung, you're being dramatic." The boss, Jay Minute, she realized distantly, didn't look away from her. "This is not a place for misunderstandings." His hand hovered near her back, not touching, but close enough that she felt its warmth like a warning. She moved because staying felt impossible. As they walked, conversations resumed behind them in a muted rush, like water closing over a wound. They stopped near a balcony overlooking the city. Cool night air brushed her skin, a welcome contrast to the suffocating warmth inside. Below them, the city glittered, distant and indifferent. "My name is Kang Jae-minute," he said. "And you are?" She told him again, voice steadier than she felt. He nodded once. "You were speaking with my brother." "Yes," she said. "I didn't know he was a twin." June supplied from behind him, amusement flickering in his eyes. "It happens." Jae-minute's gaze flicked briefly to his brother. "Enough." June lifted his hands in surrender, but his smile lingered. "I'll give you space." When he left, the absence felt strange. The balcony suddenly seemed quieter, heavier. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," she said. "You didn't," Jae-minute replied. "But trouble has a habit of finding people anyway." She studied him then, really looked. His suit was flawless, every line precise, but there were shadows beneath his eyes. Fatigue. Responsibility. The kind that didn't fade. "If you want me to leave," she said, "I will." "No," the word came instantly. Then, more measured. "You're here because I wanted you here." Her heart stuttered. "You invited me." "Yes." "Why?" He considered her, gaze assessing but not cruel. "Because you don't belong in rooms like this," he said. "And yet you came." "That doesn't explain much." "It explains everything," he replied. She folded her arms, grounding herself. "I don't understand." "I am aware," he said, "which is why we should talk somewhere quieter." They moved through a side corridor, the sounds of the party fading behind them. Abstract outlined the walls, stark and unsettling. "I support the legal clinic you work for," Jae-minute said, discreetly. Her chest tightened. "You're the benefactor." "One of them." "Why me?" "Because you're competent," he said, "and because you don't compromise your ethics." She stopped walking. "You don't know that." "I know enough." The certainty in his tone unsettled her. She forced herself to breathe. "What do you want?" she asked. "A partnership," he said. Her stomach dropped. "I don't do anything illegal." His mouth curved slightly. "Good. Neither do I. Not anymore." She studied his face, searching for deception. Found none, only resolve, and something like regret. "I need someone by my side," he continued. "Publicly. Temporarily." Realization dawned. "You want a companion." "A presence," he corrected. "Someone who represents stability. And in return, funding for your clinic. Security. Access to resources you currently lack." The word security made her bristle. "I don't need protection." "Everyone does," he said quietly, "especially those who believe they don't." Silence stretched between them. "Why not your brother?" she asked. His gaze darkened. "Because he still believes the world is kinder than it is." "And you don't?" "No." She thought of her clients, of broken systems and small victories that cost too much. She thought of her mother, smiling through exhaustion. "I need time," she said. "Take it," he replied. "But understand this, there are eyes on you already." A chill slid down her spine. That night, as she rode home alone, the city felt sharper, louder. Her phone buzzed just as she unlocked her door. "Unknown number. Take your time. But choices have a way of finding us. Jay." She stared at the message long after the screen dimmed, the echo of his whisper still lingering. "Wrong brother." She didn't sleep. When she finally drifted off, it was with two identical faces burned into her thoughts, one smiling, one watching. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet certainty took root. This was only the beginning. The call came at dawn, soft and precise, like everything else about him. She was already awake, lying on her side with the city's early light filtering through thin curtains, when her phone vibrated against the nightstand. For a moment she considered letting it ring. For another, she considered what silence would cost. "Yes," she said finally, voice rough with sleeplessness. "I hope I didn't wake you," Jae-minute said. "You didn't," she replied. "I was awake." A pause. She could almost hear him cataloging that fact, fitting it into a larger picture she couldn't see. "I've arranged a meeting," he said. "Today, if you're still willing." She closed her eyes. The choice had been made the night before. She knew that now. She had only been waiting for her body to accept it. I'm willing, she said. Good, he replied, and something like relief softened the word. A car will pick you up in 40 minutes. She sat up. That's not much notice. I know. You assume I'll say yes to everything. No, he said. I assume you'll say yes only to what aligns with you. That unsettled her more than any demand would have. The car was waiting when she stepped outside, black and understated. The driver nodded, said her name correctly. As the door closed, the city slid past the window, familiar streets transforming into something distant. They met in his office. Daylight revealed the space differently. Cooler, sharper. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a living map. The furniture was minimal, the air faintly scented with cedar and paper. J-Minute stood near the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled neatly to his forearms. He looked less like a figure from rumors and more like a man carrying weight he could never set down. You came, he said. I said I would. He turned, studying her as if measuring how much the night had taken from her. You didn't sleep. Neither did you, she countered. A faint smile ghosted across his mouth. Fair. He gestured to the seating area. They sat opposite each other, a low table between them like a boundary neither crossed. I want to be clear, she said before he could speak. I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. I don't want you to, he replied. That defeats the purpose. Which is? Credibility, he said, and truth. She raised an eyebrow. You're asking for a public arrangement built on truth. I'm asking for one built on restraint, he said calmly. We won't lie where we don't have to. And where we do, we'll choose our silences carefully. She considered that. How long? 3 months, he said. Possibly less. And what exactly does this involve? Appearances, he said. Dinners, meetings, occasional travel. You'll have full autonomy. You'll continue your work. I won't interfere. And if I want out, you'll have an exit, he said without hesitation. Any time. She searched his face, looking for the catch. Found only seriousness and something like respect. Why now? She asked. Because pressure is mounting, he replied. And because people believe I lack anchors. You want me to be an anchor? Yes. The word landed heavier than she expected. I don't know how to exist in your world, she said. That's precisely why you'll do fine, he replied. The first rule she established was distance. I don't move in, she said. I don't abandon my life. Agreed. I don't answer questions about my past. Understood. And you don't control my schedule. A pause. Then a nod. Within reason. She exhaled. Then we have a deal. He stood, extending his hand. She hesitated only a moment before taking it. His grip was warm, steady, brief. The handshake felt like a beginning. Their first public appearance came sooner than she expected. A luncheon. Midday. Politicians, investors, quiet power gathered around linen-draped tables. She wore a navy dress this time. Simple lines. Hair pinned back. The driver opened the door, and J-Minute offered his arm. She took it. Inside, eyes turned. Whispers followed. She felt the weight of them like a physical thing, but his presence beside her was grounding, his stride unhurried. You're tense, he murmured. I'm breathing, she replied. That's progress. She huffed softly, surprising herself with a smile. They moved through the room together, introductions flowing smoothly. He spoke little, listened more. When he did speak, people leaned in. And when he looked at her, briefly, deliberately, it was as if he anchored himself there. She realized then that this wasn't about convincing others. It was about convincing himself. June appeared halfway through the luncheon, grin bright as ever. So this is the famous anchor. She flushed. I have a name. I know, he said. I like it. J-Minute shot his brother a warning look. Behave. June laughed. You're no fun. But when he turned to her, his tone softened. If it's overwhelming you, blink twice. She smiled. I'll keep that in mind. As the days unfolded, the arrangement settled into rhythm. Calls in the morning, appearances in the evenings. Between it all, her life at the clinic continued. Files, Clients. Quiet victories. J-Minute kept his promise. He didn't intrude. But he noticed everything. "You're tired," he said one night as they left a charity dinner. "I always am." "You carry too much." "So do you." A pause. "Yes." The first threat came as a whisper. A folded note slipped into her coat pocket at a restaurant. No signature. Just a sentence that made her skin go cold. "Careful who you stand beside." She read it twice, then tucked it away, heart racing. She didn't tell him. Not yet. She didn't want to be fragile. Or Weiss, replaceable. But he noticed the change. "You're distracted," he said later, as the car carried them through the city. "I'm fine." He studied her profile, the set of her jaw. "You don't lie well." She met his gaze. "Neither do you." Silence stretched. He didn't press. That, more than anything, made her chest ache. The second message was harder to ignore. "We know where you work." She went to him that night. He read the note once, face hardening. "This is unacceptable." "I didn't want to worry you," she said. His eyes lifted, sharp with something like pain. "You should have told me." "I didn't want to be a liability." "You are not a liability," he said firmly. "You are the line." He stood, already issuing instructions into his phone. Security increased. Routes changed. Her world narrowed. "I don't want to hide," she protested. "This isn't hiding," he said. "It's survival." She watched him then, really watched, the tension in his shoulders, the controlled fury beneath his calm. This wasn't about optics anymore. It was about her. The closeness intensified after that. He walked her to her door, waited until she was inside. Sometimes he stayed in the hallway, silent, until she texted that she was safe. One night, after a particularly long day, she broke. "I can't keep pretending this doesn't scare me," she said quietly. He turned to her, expression softening. "You don't have to pretend with me." The admission loosened something between them. The first time he touched her without an audience, it was almost accidental. They stood in his office late, city lights flickering beyond the glass. She reached for a file, stumbled slightly. His hand caught her elbow, steadying her. Neither moved away. His thumb brushed her skin, warm and grounding. Her breath caught. "I should let go," he said. "Yes," she whispered. He didn't. The kiss that followed was tentative, careful, as if they were both afraid of breaking something fragile. It deepened only when she leaned in, choosing it. When they pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. "This complicates things." "I know," she said, "but I don't regret it." "Neither do I," he admitted, and the vulnerability in that confession struck deeper than any declaration. The danger didn't recede. A meeting was arranged, quiet, tense. She insisted on attending. "I won't be hidden away," she said. "Not after everything." He looked at her for a long moment. "Then you stay close to me." The room was charged when they arrived. Words sharpened. Accusations hovered. She listened, waited, then spoke when it mattered, voice steady, cutting through posturing with truth. She named the cost. She refused to be intimidated. When it ended, the threat was diminished, but not erased. In the quiet aftermath, J-Minute took her hands, his grip firm. "I've spent my life controlling outcomes," he said. "Accept this." She smiled softly. "Good." Outside, the city breathed on, and somewhere in its depths, something shifted. The first night she slept under his protection, she barely slept at all. The apartment was the same, small, familiar, the faint rattle of pipes in the walls, but it felt altered, as if the air itself had learned a new language. A car idled across the street longer than usual. Footsteps echoed in the hallway and set her nerves humming. She told herself this was temporary, that vigilance would dull with time. It didn't. By morning, she had learned the shape of fear, not sharp, but constant. Not paralyzing, but alerting. It made her precise. Her phone buzzed at 7. "Did you sleep?" She smiled despite herself and typed back, "Barely." A pause. Then, "Come by the office before the clinic." "Breakfast." She should have said no. She had files to review, clients waiting. But something in her, a need she hadn't named yet, said yes. He was already there when she arrived, jacket draped over the back of his chair, sleeves rolled, hair slightly disordered in a way she had never seen. The city stretched awake behind him. "You look tired," he said. "So do you." He poured her coffee without asking how she took it. It was perfect. They ate in quiet companionship, the kind that didn't demand conversation. She felt the tension ease, just a fraction. "I've adjusted security," he said finally, discreetly. "I don't want my clients intimidated." "They won't be," he assured. "They won't even notice." She believed him. That was the dangerous part. Over the next weeks, the rhythm of their lives tightened. Appearances increased. Invitations multiplied. Her name appeared in places it never had before. Whispered, speculated over, sometimes admired, sometimes judged. She learned the unspoken rules quickly. When to speak, when to stay silent, how to smile without revealing too much, how to read the subtle shifts in Jaminet's posture and know when to step closer, when to ground him with a touch so light it looked accidental. At night, alone, she questioned herself. Who was she becoming? Who was she allowed to be here? June remained a constant presence, orbiting with warmth and irreverence. "You're changing him," he told her one afternoon as they shared a quiet corner at a fundraiser. "I'm not doing anything," she replied. He grinned. "Exactly." But even June couldn't soften everything. The third threat came disguised as kindness. A woman approached her at an event, impeccably dressed, smile sharp. "You must be new," she said. "Be careful. Power doesn't love witnesses." The words lingered long after the woman disappeared into the crowd. That night, she confronted Jaminet. "Who is pushing back?" she asked. "Really?" He hesitated. That alone was answer enough. "People who benefited from the way things were," he said carefully. "People who don't like change. And I'm leverage." "No," he said immediately. "You're not." "Then why are they coming after me?" He met her gaze, jaw tight. "Because you matter to me." The admission landed hard. She felt it in her chest, in the sudden vulnerability of being seen. "You can still stop this," she said. "Let me step away." "I won't," he replied. "And I won't apologize for that." Anger fled. Fear, too. "You don't get to decide what risks I take." "I know," he said softly, "which is why I'm telling you the truth." Silence pressed in around them. "I'm not leaving," she said at last. "But I won't be sheltered either." A long moment passed. Then he nodded. "Then we face it together." The first crack in his armor came late one night. They sat in his office long after everyone else had gone, city lights blinking like distant stars. She had been quiet, lost in thought. "What happened to your father?" she asked suddenly. He stiffened. She almost apologized. "He taught me power," Jaminet said after a while. "And what it costs." She waited. "He believed fear was the only language people respected," he continued. "I believed him. For a long time. And now I'm trying to build something he wouldn't recognize." She reached for his hand, tentative. He let her. "You're doing it," she said. His grip tightened slightly. "Because you remind me what's at stake." The attack came in daylight. She was leaving the clinic, distracted, when someone grabbed her arm. Panic surged, sharp and blinding. She struggled, heart pounding. Jaminet was there in seconds, pulling her free, his body a shield. Voices shouted. The attacker fled. After, she shook uncontrollably. He held her until it passed, murmuring assurances she barely heard. "I won't let this continue," he said, fury barely contained. "I won't disappear," she replied, voice hoarse. They stood there, breathing the same air, fear binding them tighter than any contract. That night, she went to him, not as an obligation, but as a choice. The kiss was different this time. Urgent. Real. His hands were careful, reverent. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I'm afraid," he admitted. "So am I," she said. The confession changed something fundamental. The meeting that followed was inevitable. An enemy revealed. A confrontation arranged under false politeness. She insisted on attending again. "You don't have to," he said. "I do," she replied. "For myself." The room was tense, words edged with threat. When the pressure mounted, she spoke, not with anger, but clarity. She named the harm. She refused to be intimidated. She made it clear she was not a weakness. The silence that followed was profound. When they left, the city felt different, lighter, as if a storm had passed. Back in his office, J-Minute turned to her, eyes dark with emotion. "I've spent my life believing attachment was a liability," he said. "I was wrong." She stepped closer. "You don't have to do this alone." He cupped her face, thumbs warm against her cheeks. "Stay." She did. In the weeks that followed, the threats faded. Not gone, but diminished. The world adjusted, recalibrated. They settled into something quieter. True. At the next party, when someone mistook June for J-Minute again, she laughed, easy and unafraid. "I know the difference," she said. Later, on the balcony where it had begun, J-Minute stood beside her, city lights stretching below. "You chose the right brother," he murmured. She leaned into him, certain. "So did you." And for the first time, the future felt like something they were building, together. The final confrontation did not arrive with raised voices or shattered glass. It came quietly. Too quietly. She sensed it before anyone told her. An unease that settled deep in her chest, the same instinct that had guided her through crowded courtrooms and dangerous negotiations. The world had grown still around J-Minute, the way it does before something breaks. They were in his office when the call came. He answered it without speaking, listening in silence. She watched the muscles in his jaw tighten, the calm in his eyes harden into resolve. When he ended the call, he didn't look at her right away. "It's time," he said. "For what?" she asked, though she already knew. "For them to stop testing me." Her heart pounded. "And how does that happen?" "By ending the illusion that you are leverage." She stood. "Then I'm coming." "No," he said instantly. "Yes," she replied just as firmly. "This ends with me present, or it doesn't end at all." They faced each other across the room, tension thick as fog. For the first time since they'd met, he looked uncertain, not afraid, but torn. "You shouldn't have to do this," he said quietly. "I choose to," she answered. "I always have." Something in her voice broke through him. He nodded once. "Then stay close to me." The meeting was held in a private residence overlooking the river. Neutral ground. Carefully chosen. She noted every detail as they entered. The exits, the spacing, the way J-Minute's security moved without drawing attention. Inside, the atmosphere was deceptively calm. Polite greetings. Civil smiles. Men who had built empires on intimidation now pretended at diplomacy. She sat beside J-Minute, posture straight, hands steady in her lap. She did not shrink. When the accusations surfaced, they were veiled in concern. When the threats came, they were wrapped in warnings. "You've changed," one man said to J-Minute. "Your priorities are exposed." J-Minute's gaze flicked briefly to her, then back. They clarified. "And she's worth destabilizing years of balance?" another asked, eyes sliding toward her. She spoke then, before J-Minute could stop her. "You mistake visibility for weakness," she said calmly. "I'm not here because I was chosen. I'm here because I chose." The room stilled. "You built your power on fear," she continued. "Is building something else. That frightens you." Silence pressed down, heavy and uncomfortable. J-Minute turned to her, surprise flickering across his face. Then pride. "This ends today," he said to the room. "Any further action against her, or against those I protect, will be answered. Completely." No shouting followed. No dramatic exit. Just understanding. The threat dissolved not because it was crushed, but because it was exposed. When they left, the river reflected the city's lights in fractured gold. She didn't realize she was shaking until they were alone in the car. J-Minute took her hands, grounding her. "You were extraordinary." "So were you," she replied softly. Back in his office, the weight finally lifted. He stood near the window, back to her, shoulders sagging with exhaustion. She crossed the room and rested her forehead between his shoulder blades. "It's over," she whispered. He turned, hands framing her face. His eyes were dark, open, unguarded in a way she had never seen. "I love you," he said. The words were not dramatic. They were inevitable. Her breath caught. I was waiting for you to say that. He laughed softly, incredulous. You knew. I felt it, she replied. Every time you chose honesty over control. He kissed her then, not tentative, not restrained, but certain, a promise rather than a question. The days that followed felt unreal in their simplicity. She returned fully to the clinic, no longer watched with suspicion but with respect. Funding arrived without conditions. Programs expanded. Lives shifted. J-Minute stepped further into the light, reshaping his empire with transparency that unsettled some and inspired others. June, as always, provided commentary. So, he said one evening as they shared dinner, you're officially terrifying now. She smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. He raised his glass, to choosing the right brother. Months later, another party, another ballroom. She stood beside J-Minute, his hand warm around hers. When someone mistook June for him again, she laughed easily. I know, she said, but I chose him. J-Minute leaned in, voice low and certain. And I chose you. The city glowed beyond the windows, vast and alive. This time, her heart didn't stop. It settled. Thank you for listening to Mid-Party. She flirted with his twin. The Korean boss whispered, wrong brother. And her heart stopped. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world. Until next time, Red Heart Hash.